My colleague Dion Batiste recently sat down with comedian Nikki Crosby to talk about her career and what motivates her. Now, bear in mind, this interview preceded her last episode a few days ago, where she was a victim of a robbery in a supermarket. Here's her story.
So I want you to start by telling me a little bit about your secret. I mean, over 2 decades
Yes.
in the industry.
That's a really interesting question because anyone who does entertainment and stuff, you usually have a product life cycle, meaning that, you usually have extended up to certain years and then you kind of phase out and then new talent comes in. Exactly. So I've been very blessed to be doing it about 22 years now. And I think I do so many different things. I think that's the secret to it because, I act, then I brought out Granny. Granny has a life of her own, radio, TV, producing plays. So I think it's just because I do so many things. I'm always in people's face.
And of the different things that you do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think acting has always been my favorite. Most people know me as a stand-up comedian. That's how I kind of started, and that's what I did for a few years and travel all over the world representing Trinidad and Tobago in comedy. But acting, I just love. Becoming other people and really bringing characters to life on stage and working with Penelope Spencer. We have a production company, Haha Productions. So we always producing stuff for plays and stuff. So I love that.
Okay, you seem to always exude confidence. Shyness and insecurities, are these things that you ever had to battle with?
As a woman, and it's only, I guess, as you get more confident in your craft. I remember when I first came out, in those days, there was no woman MC in a tent yet. And I was the first woman to do it. And I remember a female reporter wrote that women, this was the day after the opening, women shouldn't be in 10, Nikki Crosby need to stay out of 10, that's a man thing, And I remember feeling so insecure and really like, okay, did it, tried it. And singing Sandra, she held my hand and she told me, next you're going to encounter this, especially as an entertainer, and you just have to get back on your horse and keep doing it. And, I do a lot of work with kids, and I always kind of tell them that story because it's so easy for people to want you to give up on your dreams and encourage you not to go for it, So I can always tell that story when I'm talking to kids. Even though that there are people who will tell you you're not funny or you're not good enough or you're not this and that, you have to sometimes just get back on your horse and have that confidence in yourself. So I think I survived because I had a little confidence in myself. It wasn't easy. And again, being the only woman, the first woman to start it. And, when a track has been laid, it's a lot easier to follow. But when you kind of making the track. So as the first woman to do stand-up, I had my challenges. But out of those challenges, I think that's kind of what kind of built my confidence over the years.
I find it baffling that a woman would have said so, though.
What, that?
That Nikki has no right. You said
exactly, it was a
right?
female. But years after, she apologized to me. She said, Nikki, I wrote something years ago and I have to apologize, I think being the first woman, I lost boyfriends because they couldn't deal with the fact that there's this woman on stage talking about men and da-da-da. So, as I said, I think that kind of, over the years, falling down kind of builds up your confidence.
And care to share some of the challenges you would have encountered as a woman that was trying to wade her way through
different little simple things that maybe we take for granted. When I started comedy, it was only men in the arena. People like Tommy Joseph. In those days, John Agitation was still doing it. Sprang and Lang, Errol Fabian, very male-oriented. And so I would go to do shows and they would have no facilities for me, no mirror, no place for me to change, those kind of issues. I also had to deal with not wanting to pay me properly. I think women in any profession goes through this. I remember some years ago, a promoter in Barbados sent me a check and I had just performed well, mashed up the place and sent me a check. It was like, so I sent it back and I told him, obviously you need this more than me. And that's kind of when I started to fight for my rights to be paid just as much as the man. I had felt like I had paid my dues already. There's a certain kind of block they put you in. You have to pay your dues. So I went through that. I have to pay my dues as the first woman doing this. And then you had to fight for what you really want, you know, and I had a lot of fighting to do to make it easy now for the other females who came behind me. But there was a lot that I had to deal with.
And at what point
And harassment too, because as a woman,
yeah,
sometimes when you go out on shows outside, as the only woman in the crew, men checking on your promoter, checking you, and it gets a little, you know, I kind of know what young women go through when you're going into a new field. So I had a lot of those things to deal with.
were you ever propositioned or basically told that you had to put out in order to get a job?
Yeah, once, yeah. And I was like, hello, you don't know who I am. My mouth was too hot for that. I don't think anybody could take advantage of me in that way. But yes, once I was propositioned, you know, telling me basically that I had to sleep with them if I wanted to be on the show. I was like, yeah, that show ain't that good. And so I don't think I know for a fact there's nobody out there could say that I kind of slept my way to the top. I had no top, but I think it's sad that so many women and young girls, especially because I work with a lot of young girls, and the kind of pressures that are put on them, young boys, etc. It's just, you know, I think it's something we women have to have the shield on all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and with my nieces, and so you kind of train them how to have the shield on and to protect yourselves. And we live in different times now. We really have to teach our kids how to protect themselves.
At what point did they start to take you seriously, and did they come to a point where they accepted that you were here to stay?
Yeah, I think after doing like my first 2-3 years of comedy, as I said, I was the only woman, so I was in everything. I was in all, when they had to choose comedians from Trinidad, who they would choose, I would always be the only woman. And seeing the rest of the world and just, you know, going out there and doing my thing. Sorry, what was the question?
At what point
yes,
did they really accept
so after
you?
I did that for about 2-3 years and doing my thing, people really started to respect that Nikki Crosby was here for a good while, and she would be here for a long time.
Did you get the acceptance outside first or here?
I think here. I think here, and then the promoters started to take me a little more seriously, etc. I mean, I've had such great opportunities working under comedy. I mean, I performed at the Apollo twice, and that for me was one of the highlights of my career. The Montreal Comedy Festival, I was the first ever in the Caribbean to be asked to perform there, and that's a huge festival. So I did some things that after a while people said, no, yeah, give Nikki your props, boy. She doing her thing, you know?
Okay, so you're a known children's activist, sorry.
Yes.
In an interview with one of the dailies a couple years back, you mentioned that children share with you their deepest, darkest secrets. What do you think it is about you? What's the quality they see in you that compels them to open up?
I've been asking myself that recently, because recently I've had young people especially who have been going through depression and thinking about committing suicide. And they reach out to me. Like right now I'm dealing with a young girl who was raped by 3 young boys, and she just reached out to me. She was on the verge of killing herself that night. And I just talking about it. It's so emotional because there's so many kids and young people that need help and just feel that they have no avenues. So I've been asking myself that recently, is this my calling? Because as I said, these kids find me and they tell me about the abuse they experience, the rapes, some deep, dark secrets. And I went back when they had opened the gate and stuff. I went back to Costat and did a degree in psychology. It was more for me because I realized that maybe this is what has led me to this point in my life. I'm supposed to be helping young people. I mean, as I said, I think it's a calling. That's all I can really say, because it's amazing how kids just open up to me. And like I do a lot of schools, I do a lot of motivational speeches, graduation speeches. I mean, I take the time to go out to schools, and I can usually pick out the kids in the crowds that being abused or not happy or something's wrong at home. And we always kind of connect, and I kind of make sure and go out to them and hug them. And so I really think it's a calling. I can't explain it. I really can't explain it, but it's something I've been doing for the last few years. Now that Facebook and Instagram and these things, kids can reach out to me not knowing my phone number. So I get a lot of messages. So I try to deal with it to the point of I think I'm doing God's work, and I take it seriously. I try to guide them to different counseling services, things like the Rape Crisis Society, and try and get them the right professional help. But most of the time it starts with me. So to dance it, I really think is God's work of doing.
Okay, of all the children that you would have helped over the years, any stories that stuck with you that you'd like to
There's
share?
so many stories. I mean, just so many stories. I remember this young girl, she had just had baby. She was like maybe 19 and she had triplets.
Oh, dear God.
I know. And she had contacted me for help, and those are the kind of stories you stick with because you know the kids growing up. Sometimes I get too involved with my husband. I have to tell me, Nikki, you need to pull back because I can't help everybody in the way I want to help people. This particular case I'm dealing with, this was a young girl. She's doing CAPE, and she had a boyfriend for 5 months, and he wanted sex. And when she told him no, she wasn't ready for that, he brought 2 friends and raped her. I mean, these are the kind of stories going on in Trinidad. So what I've been doing is just trying to get her through her studies, get her through the CAPE exams and try and get her to counseling and stuff after. So I get attached to all the cases, and it's always good to see when they could kind of move on or they could kind of get the help that I want them to get, because I'm not a counselor and I'm not certified to counsel. I counsel out of being Aunty Nikki. So I really try to get them counseling. So you can't help but not be attached to every child or every young person I've spoken to. They really look up to me as an auntie.
Thanking Dion Batiste for that interview there.